You hear it all the time, right? The world order is collapsing. But what if that's not the full picture? What if it's only half the story? Today, we're going to dive into this massive shift that's happening right under our noses, what some are calling the Great Reconfiguration. And we're basing this all on a really fascinating essay by Fiona Hill. So that brings us to the big question, the one we're really going to wrestle with today. Is everything just falling apart? Or is something new being born from the ashes? I mean, think about it. What if all this chaos we're seeing isn't an ending, but actually, the birth pangs of a whole new system? Okay, so the key word for today, the one you're gonna wanna remember, is reconfiguration. And what's so brilliant about this idea is how it completely reframes the way we look at things. See, we tend to think of it like a three-act play, right? You've got the old order, then chaos and disorder, and then finally a new order. But what if they're not separate things at all? In reality, they're all just different phases of one single underlying process, a system that's trying to put itself back together again. The chaos? That's not the end. It's just part of the change. All right, so let's jump into Act 1, the collapse. We're talking about the end of an era that many of us grew up in, often called Pax America. That period after the Cold War where the United States was basically the stabilizing force. But here's the kicker, and this is so important. This old order isn't just fading away gracefully. No, it's being actively, deliberately taken apart. Yeah, for decades, really for most of our lives, the world kind of ran on a specific operating system. There were these built-in assumptions. The US would provide security, markets would be open, international institutions mattered. And that system, for all its flaws, did provide a certain kind of stability, a framework that, let's be honest, a lot of countries probably took for granted. But that framework, it's being ripped apart. And what's absolutely stunning, what's kind of mind-blowing, is that the United States itself seems to be the one holding the wrecking ball. So get ready for this. We're about to run through a quick series of statements from top US officials that have sent shockwaves through the entire global system. Okay, first up, the security pillar. The US has made it crystal clear. Hey, Europe, you're on your own. They're saying they will no longer be the main security guarantee for the continent. I mean, wow, that is a seismic shift. This completely upends an alliance that has been the bedrock of international politics for, 80 years? All right, next, the economic pillar gets knocked out. And get this, at the World Economic Forum in Davos, of all places, the high temple of globalization, the U.S. Commerce Secretary just comes out and says it. Globalization is a failed policy. The message could not have been clearer. It's basically every nation for itself now. And this right here really gets to the heart of it, to the core motivation. This question just perfectly captures the feeling that's driving this whole withdrawal. It's this deep-seated sense that America's role as the world's leader has just cost way too much in blood and treasure, with way too little to show for it. So, okay, the old order is gone. What's next? Well, we enter a phase of pure disorder. We're talking about a chaotic, totally unpredictable, and frankly, pretty dangerous geopolitical free-for-all. This basically lays out the new playbook. The old rules about open markets and everyone playing nice, gone. The new rules, it's all about leverage. Trade isn't about mutual benefit anymore, it's a weapon. Supply chains aren't just about efficiency, they're being rewired for national security. And look, this isn't some abstract policy debate. This is a world where the price and even the availability of everything, from your phone to the food you buy, can suddenly become way, way more unpredictable. And this disorder, it has a staggering, heartbreaking human cost. Just look at the war in Ukraine. By early 2026, we're talking about an estimated 2 million people killed or injured. Just let that sink in for a second. 2 million. This is what happens. This is the tragic reality when the systems and the mechanisms that were designed to keep the peace just completely break down. But here's a really important point. This isn't just a simple rerun of the Cold War. It's not just US versus China. What's really happening is the emergence of a truly multipolar world. You've got these rising middle powers. Think India, Brazil, Turkey, Saudi Arabia. They've got their own money, their own networks, their own influence, and their own agendas. They can act as a counterbalance to the big guys, which means the new rules of the game, they're going to be forged in the fire of competition between many powers, not just two.
And look, this isn't just some abstract political theory. It's hard economic reality. Take a look at this chart. When you measure economic size by something called purchasing power parity, which is basically a better way of comparing what money can actually buy in different places, the BRICS nations together are now economically larger than the G7. The economic center of gravity of the world, it has already shifted. It's done.
Okay, so we've looked at the collapse and we've stared into the chaos. But peril and possibility often go hand in hand. So let's pivot now to our third and final act. Let's talk about how nations and businesses and even local communities are starting to adapt to this new world and how they're beginning to build a completely new system right from the ground up. To really get a handle on this, a little history lesson helps. Think about the Roman Empire. When it fell, it felt like the end of the world, right? But it wasn't. It was a fragmentation, sure, but that led to new kingdoms, new trade routes, new partnerships. Life went on. People adopted. They repurposed things, they refocused, they built new supply chains. The end of one empire, in this case Pax Americana, doesn't mean the end of the world. It just means we're at the very beginning of a huge, massive process of adaptation. So what does this adaptation actually look like on the ground? Well, the key word here is resilience. It's about making sure you don't have all your eggs in one basket, so avoiding single points of failure. It's about reducing your dependencies on any one country or any one supply chain. It's about building up your own local and regional resources. And crucially, it's about forging new, diverse partnerships with lots of different players, not just tying yourself to one superpower. And believe me, this isn't some future prediction. It's happening right now, all over the place. You've got Canada working hard to boost its own internal trade between its provinces so it's less dependent on the US. You've got the EU and the UK scrambling to sign new trade deals with India and China. And it's not just countries. We're even seeing places like the state of California signing its own international climate deals directly with the UK. This reconfiguration, it's happening at every single level. So we've walked through the collapse, the disorder, and the first signs of adaptation. So what comes next? Okay, if there is one single thing to take away from all this, it's this. What feels like a total collapse is really a form of adaptation. All the chaos, the conflict, the uncertainty that makes us all so anxious, it's all just part of a global system going through the messy and, painful process of rewiring itself for a new era. We're not watching the end of the world, we are living right in the middle of the transition. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important question. See, this new world order, it isn't going to be designed in some fancy conference room and handed down from on high by one or two superpowers. That's not how it works anymore. It's going to be built, brick, by tons of different actors. Nations, cities, companies, and even individuals. So the real question for all of us isn't what will the new order look like? It's how will we adapt and what part will we play in building it? So, everything we've talked about today comes from the essay Peril and Possibility, Collapsing Old Order, Emerging Disorder, or New Order. It was written by Fiona Hill for the Brookings Institution and published on April 3rd, 2026. Thanks so much for joining me.